How are you? Thank you so much. You, not you. You. For joining me today for this video. I'm excited about this video. It's the Titan versus the Goliath. New York City versus London. City comparison. Fun idea. I like it. The infographics show. They're the true behemoth, the Goliath of YouTube. 13 million subscribers. Anyway, I'm curious.
This episode is brought to you by Hero Wars.
How they compare. I mean, obviously, I've never been to London. I was born in New York, not in the city, but just outside. So I've been there.
Anything like me, you definitely get nostalgic about old school RPG games. Well, lucky for us, Hero Wars and the awesome
Looks like a great mobile game, guys.
now you could visit is San Miguel. According to Travel and Leisure magazine, the best city in the world right now you could visit is San Miguel de Allende in
Never heard of it.
Mexico, followed by Charleston in the USA,
Charleston. I'm gonna have to go there.
followed by Chiang Mai in Thailand. These three
Why?
places, however, don't even get on the top 20 places
Why are those the places to visit?
to actually live in this year's Quality of Living Index, a yearly list compiled by HR
would you-
firm Mercer. Apparently, if you want to live the
What's in Charleston?
good life, you should move to Vienna, Austria, Zurich, Switzerland, or Auckland, New Zealand. The top 20 list doesn't include any cities from the UK or the USA, two countries that have arguably been the two heavyweights in the last century regarding power and wealth. These two countries, however,
That's kind of weird, huh? That's kind of like embarrassing for us, you know, considering how much power these countries have to not even make the list.
contain cities that attract millions of overseas visitors every year. Today, we are going to compare them in this episode of the infographic show, New York City versus London. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. The cities are two of the most visited places in the entire world. In 2016, though, the most visited city in the world by international travelers was
Dang it, I was gonna guess.
Thailand's capital, Bangkok.
I can't believe that would have never been my guess. What? Bangkok? Okay. That just shows how out of touch I am with like the populations of the world. I mean, obviously now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, okay. I still don't understand actually now that I'm thinking about it. Other than that there's billions of Asian people.
21.47 million people visited Bangkok that year. In second place was London with 19.88
Oh, interesting. So London actually wasn't that far behind.
million visitors, and in third place was Paris with 18.03 million visitors.
I would have thought New York City above Paris, but
The most visited
Maybe
US
I'm
city
wrong.
was New York City, and that was in fifth place with 12.75 million visitors. Dubai was in fourth. In the
quite a bit last.
last 5 years, Bangkok held the first position 3 times and London twice.
But then again, it's the U.S. is really far out of the way compared to, you know, like visiting a lot of people in Europe. You can visit other countries in Europe pretty easily, other cities, and you know.
In our comparison,
Yeah.
we might thereby
And same with like the Asian countries, other Asian countries, you know, relatively easy to visit each other, but the U.S. is kind of isolated, kind of. I mean, we got Canada and Mexico bordering us, but
deduce
there's not that many people in Mexico and Canada, or there's not that many people in Canada, and Mexico's pretty far away from New York City. Anyway,
that London is more visitable than New York City. Let's find out why. First, we will take a look at the two cities' abridged history. We'll start with London as it's the elder. The city of London is old, but nowhere near as old as some cities in the Middle East, China, or other parts of Europe. You'll know from our show on the British and Roman empires that Britain was invaded by the Romans in 43 AD. They established the city of Londinium that at the time was about
Londinium.
the size of a small village in England right now. When the Romans left Londinium, it was pretty much a ghost town, and for hundreds of years it remained so. Even the invading Vikings didn't do much with it, and it wasn't until the Normans invaded from France and subjugated the country that London became a powerful city. William the Conqueror made London the Norman stronghold, building the famous Tower of London.
Interesting. It's so funny to hear about history like that. Like, I don't know. People were really just out there invading each other for centuries on end, huh?
The Normans would be the last people
Now when that happens, it's a big deal. But back in the day, That's all anybody did, I guess.
To this date to successfully invade England. In medieval times, London grew in power and wealth, but that also included the spread of poverty, corruption, and greed among the upper echelons of society, and bouts of population-denuding plagues. It wasn't until 1850 that London became the largest city in the world in terms of population.
It was the largest city in the world? London's not the largest city in the world, is it? I was wondering what these tracks are. I wonder if that's train tracks.
Some sources say it was as early as 1825, though most scholars agree that London was the most populated.
Obviously, London's not anymore, right? Because something like Hong Kong or maybe Bangkok has way more people, right?
City until the 1920s.
Shanghai.
Another city then took over right up until the 60s, and that was the city of New York. Long before New York City had high-rise buildings, it was the stomping ground of Algonquin natives who hunted and fished where people now trade stocks and eat pastrami sandwiches. It wasn't until 1624 that European settlers would start a community in the city when families of the Dutch West India Company made a home of Nutten Island. That's now known as Governor's Island and is between Manhattan and Brooklyn. Being Dutch, they called this place New Amsterdam. Some historians say that the Dutch bought the area from the natives for a few trinkets. The peace between the natives and the Euro expansionists didn't last, and the trouble ended with a lot more native casualties than Dutch casualties. New Amsterdam soon covered much of what we regard as New York City today.
It's crazy how native people around the world basically face the same fate everywhere in the world.
But the imperialistic Brits, guided by London prospectors, would soon burst the Dutch bubble. On August 26, 1664, 4 British frigates sailed to New Amsterdam and in a bloodless coup took control and renamed it New York after the Duke of York, not the city of York, in the north of England. At that time, the city had about 1,500 Europeans and 375 Africans.
So that was called New York? I'm confused.
Most of whom were slaves. It remained that way for over 100 years, and even when American independence was on the cards, New York City was a stronghold for British loyalists. In 1783, the British were forced out, and in 1789, it became the first national capital of the US. Only in 1790 did the capital become Washington, D.C. Like London, the growing city had its fair share of growing pains, including great fires and huge loss of life due to yellow fever and cholera. Nonetheless, by 1850, the population was more than 550,000, and New York City had become a center of the world. So now we come to the present day. The population of
With just 550,000, I guess that was a lot back in the day.
London right now is thought to be about 8.7 million.
Okay, now we're at present day. To be honest, that's what I was mostly expecting this video to be about, not about like the history.
So now we come to the present day. The population of London right now is thought to be about 8.7 million. This has spiked lately due to the arrival of ethnic minorities that make up about 44% of the city's population.
44%, wow.
London covers an area of 607 square miles, making it the
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I just didn't know it was half of the people are ethnic minorities.
biggest city in Europe. New York City has a population of 8.538 million, and it is mixed in terms of ethnicity. About 44% of residents are white Caucasian, 27% Hispanic, 25% Black or African American, with a much smaller mix of other ethnicities. The city covers 300.
New York is definitely like the most melting pot city. I mean, America is supposed to be like the melting pot of the world. New York is definitely the melting pot of America. There actually is a lot of diversity on every different block you go to in New York City. What was I looking up? Oh, yeah. I'm just curious what the most populated city in the world is. Is it Shanghai? Tokyo? No. Why did it say Tokyo? I searched most populated cities. It says Tokyo, but then I see, Shanghai. That was my guess. Oh, wait. But here, Tokyo. What the heck is going on today, guys? It is Tokyo. So why does it only say 14 million here? Let's get back to the video.
4 square miles and is the biggest city in the USA, though considerably smaller than London. But with almost equal populations, this means New Yorkers have far less space. So what about the standard of living in these cities?
Interesting. So that's why. I wonder how that plays into the economics of building skyscrapers.
They are both pivotal cities
Like, does New York City have higher skyscrapers because there's a higher density of people?
regarding the financial sector, though one website claims that London's financial sector is slightly bigger with 340,000 employees to New York's 322,000. As of March 2017, the Global Financial Centers Index puts London at the center of the world, with New York hot on its heels in the number 2 spot. New York has more billionaires
It is actually amazing how similar these two cities are in terms of populations and stuff, just as he's going over this.
with 103 in 2017 according to Forbes, while London only has 72. London is said to have
Still, that's a freaking lot.
better job growth though over the last decade. For the average Joe,
Does billionaire only... Wait. There's no way this is spelled correctly. Billionaires. I was going to say, does it only have one L?
among us, how is life in these cities? Again, it depends on which source you read. The latest cost of living index by Expatizen puts New York as the 5th most expensive city to live in the world, and London in
Honestly, I just have to look that up. I can't pay attention until I look that up because I'm like, wait, is billionaires a word? No. No, it's not a word.
12, with food and housing in New York being more expensive, but clothes and transportation being cheaper. The Guardian reports that after Brexit, London got a lot cheaper, stating that the city has
Really?
recently arrived at a newfound bargain basement status. In fact,
Well, that's freaking awesome.
according to the website Numbeo, that compares cost of prices around the world, the cities are fairly equal in terms of eating, going out, shopping, but just a bit more in New York. Renting in London is cheaper than New York if you're not renting high-end apartments, but actually buying a place is much more expensive in London on average. Travel is more expensive
Why is that? So you'd rather be a landlord in New York, huh, than London, because you can buy it and then rent it out. You can buy it for cheaper, but rent it out at the same price. So how do landlords even survive in London?
in London, whether you buy your own gas or use public transportation. Gas and electric is also more expensive in London, but internet is almost half the price of New York on average. Education
I don't think anyone's ever asked that question. How do landlords survive? The poor landlords of London. How do they survive?
Electric is also more expensive in London, but internet is almost half the price of New York on average. Education is more expensive in New York, and it's thought that inner city London schools are a bit better than inner city New York schools. The average wage in New York is $4,542.
I think schools in general are probably a little bit better. That's at least the impression I get. At least I think that's what people... That's most people's opinion, right? That schools are better in the UK over the US education system on average.
A month, while in London it is only $2,952
Damn, now that's a big difference.
a month. That might sound bad for Londoners, but they do get free healthcare, lots of paid vacation, and in general, better workers' rights.
That's true. But don't they pay higher taxes too, I assume, to pay for the free healthcare? Am I wrong or am I right?
Money aside, what about the general day-to-day creature comforts? Well, as London is much bigger, it also has more space. With that, you get more parks and more green spaces. At the same time, New York is easier to get around, and some people speaking on forums say, a bit more fun, as it's compact, and unlike London, is more of a 24-hour city. If you are out at night, London may have more crimes in terms of robberies and assaults, but New York has more murders.
I actually can't believe that London has more robberies than New York City. I wonder if that's still true, because this video is how old? 6 years old. I have a feeling after the whole pandemic situation, well, crime went way up here in America. I don't know about London, but it definitely did here in America. It's definitely been on the wrong track.
According to Numbeo, respondents to a survey said they felt similar about safety in London and New York. It seems the difference is bigger crimes are more common in New York, but your chances of finding trouble on the street is more likely in London. We should, however, take this to those that have lived in both cities. According to one American man who did both for many years, he said on a forum thread that both cities were too expensive even when single. He loved
There's something funny about, like, I wonder who this guy is. He probably doesn't even know he's in a video with 1 million views. because he left a comment on a forum.
Loved the open, sprawling green spaces in London, and at times didn't like the noisy, claustrophobic streets of New York. He did, however, like the fact that in New York, you could sit down anywhere and find enjoyment, while London was too spread out for him at times. The writer agreed with the sites we cited already on costs of things, also the heavy workload in the US for most people, but did say in terms of meeting new people, socializing, or partying, New York is easier. One more thing he pointed out that we didn't mention yet was the weather, which is a deal breaker for some people. New York has colder winters and can have steaming hot summers, whereas London is cool, damp, and gray for much of the year, with some warm weeks in summer and only a moderately
It's kind of funny. The weather's not very nice in either one of them.
cold winter compared to New York. We'll end it there with the
Or
weather.
at least not like ideal.
Have you lived in or visited either of these two cities? If so, we'd love it if you shared your opinion.
Not like San Francisco or something. Hold on. Guys, I've been looking for like 20 minutes, feels like it at least, to find some kind of comparison in crime between London and New York City. And they just don't use the same, there's like no comparable metrics. Like it's nearly impossible to find anything to compare. I don't know why that is. Like how hard is it to compare nonviolent crime? But I did find this one graph that does compare New York to London, and it's sort of interesting that you can see. I mean, this is murders. Over time, New York was going down, but London was kind of trending upward the last few years. They were almost coming together. But now New York's trending back up, and London's going down. Kind of interesting. You guys can't even see the freaking graph. Oh, God. What am I doing? Guys, I'm gonna stop the video here. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Shout out to the Infographics Show. Link down below. Goodbye.